Welcome to Traumedy. My guest this week is a trauma survivor turned therapist and author, podcaster, an amazing human as far as I can tell so far. Please welcome to the program, Brooke Deanne. Hi, Brooke.
Hello, thank you for having me here. I'm excited to be here and have this conversation.
Me too. I adore trauma survivors who have, not only done their healing work, but are paying it forward to help other people. And it sounds like you're definitely on that mission to
Yes.
help, like aligned with the mission of trauma to help heal ourselves and others, right?
I don't want people to suffer the way that I did. I want to show them that there is a faster, quicker, easier route to deal with the pain and the suffering so that they can finally start to live more in joy and safety and connection and belonging and all of those things because, I felt like I took kind of the hard route my whole entire life. And so I was like, well, I'm going to show people that this doesn't have to, we don't have to do these things the hard way. We could actually, there's easier ways to do it.
Yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel because there's all this support out there and understanding now. You have a book called Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful. What I understood was one of the main topics is narcissistic abuse. Is
Yes.
that something that you've experienced that you want to help others to get out of the crazy making cycle of
Mhm.
that?
I do. Actually, that's really my biggest passion is helping women mostly to see the fact that not only has patriarchy, I can never say the word, but I always say it wrong, but
Well, we can
patriarchy
say it
has,
again. Patriarchal society. Let's say it
yeah, thank
together.
you. But I'm like, I want people to understand like that women have been suppressed for a long time. And it's the reason why we've kind of just been operating in this kind of like abusive toxicity cycle between men and women. We're not giving men the reason to not stop doing it because we're staying. We're staying in relationships, and that was my story for 17 years. But again, also speaking to the fact that we get stuck and trapped in those relationships because of what we experienced as children, because of the trauma that we're carrying inside of us. We think that we're less than. We think we're not worthy of more. We think we're not enough. And then we also were maybe, for my instance, I was modeled in an abusive relationship. So I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And then weave in my religious trauma where it said a man is higher than a woman and a woman is meant to, stay quiet, be silent, do her duty. And I thought, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is my role in life. And so, you put all those factors in and it's a perfect storm for me to stay trapped in abuse. And so it's why I'm very passionate about speaking to these systems, not only religious systems, but narcissistic systems, right? Family, relationships. It can happen in at work, it can happen in friendships, right? Just being able to show people like, okay, what is harm? What is abuse? And how do you start to actually really protect yourself and know the difference?
I love that. And there's so much of internalized, misogyny, internalized, the patriarchal system, like you said at the very beginning of that, where, I am in a recovery program for adult children of dysfunctional families. And I often have to address my sense of, unworthiness or, like you said, less than second class citizen. Even now, I get on stage sometimes, I'm a stand up comedian. So I get on stage, I have these pants I bought recently at, what is it, J. Crew or something. And they have a back pocket this deep. And I try to put my cell phone in there and it's sticking out this far. And I turn my back to the stage and I'm like, if you don't think it's a patriarchy, check this out. Like, am I not worthy? Am I not worthy of a full pocket? I mean,
No, you're
seriously,
not. You're not worthy of a full pocket.
according to society. And it's really, I mean, it says so much about the deep pockets, right? About the who has the money, who has the power, who has the control and religious. So you grew, let's go into your childhood a little bit. I think that's interesting. You grew up, it sounds like in a very religious home.
Yes, yes, I did. It was very much stay by the rules. It was very black and white thinking. We have to like abide by these rules. My father was an elder, so I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and an elder is someone that's kind of higher up in this society, if you will, and so it requires the family to really play a role, and that role is to be the perfect little spiritual family. And so, as an elder's daughter, my father put a lot of pressure on me to be that good girl, right? That
Yeah.
perfect little girl that complied, listen. She was supposed to be the example. And I got that all the time. You're supposed to be the example for the other children within the church, you know? And so I felt that pressure. And the more pressure that I felt to be that perfect little good girl, well, the more that my whole entire system was like, we're gonna rebel against this. Because
Oh, good for you. I
I
just
don't
want to
want to,
applaud.
I didn't
I
want
want
to
to
fit in a
applaud
box from very early, right? I didn't want to fit in a box. I had played the good girl for too long, and I realized I don't want to fit in this box. I want to fit in with my peers. I want to belong, you know, because as growing up a witness, you have to be different. They tell you, literally, the religious leaders say you're different from the rest of the world, right? You are the chosen people of God, and everybody else is not.
Wow.
So they immediately, you know, brainwash you to believe that you are the chosen people and that the people on the outside are evil, wrong, and not chosen by God. So it's our job to go preach door to door to go and save all of these people. And, you know, you don't realize the trauma until after you leave that kind of really, that experience even gave me, because not only did it give me a superiority complex, like, oh, I'm better than you,
Hmm.
you're not God's chosen people. I know the way, you don't know the way. But it also, you know, created this feeling of I don't know where I belong. I don't feel like I belong in this religion, and I also don't feel like I belong outside of this religion. And so it was very interesting to have to navigate the world around me, because I just always had the belief I don't fit in anywhere. I don't belong anywhere. Like, I don't know where I belong. And so I just really stayed and conformed to the system because I didn't want to lose my family. I didn't want to lose my community. Because when you leave, you lose everybody.
And that's how cults work. That's right.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah.
I've heard is that when you're inside, you want to, they make it so that it is so, like you said, you have abandonment. All your abandonment issues are going to come up. You're going to be exiled. And there's a part of our brain that knows we are interdependent beings. Like, of course, as a child, you cannot survive without your parents. And
Yeah.
so that indoctrination of the cult, I'm going to call it a cult. I don't know if that's appropriate, but I feel
It
like
is.
that's a cult mentality. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and then at what age, I'm curious, like, did you start, or did you said always, like, I definitely always felt different. And I always thought, well, maybe it's because I have a weird eye and I have a, like I always felt like I'm a tomboy. Like I really felt like this, I don't want to wear a dress. I never want, I wanted to wear shoes that I could climb a tree with. And it just, I never liked wearing whatever that costume, to me, it felt like a costume if I dressed like a girl, and not to say I can't wear a dress now and then, but I just, well, actually, I haven't worn a dress in so long, but I do respect people that do. Okay. You're a goddess. I know. That's the name of your podcast, right? Goddess Rising.
It is. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I adore the feminine energy and the divine feminine. But anyway, back to you. When did you have that, or like where you decided to rebel? Was it your teenage years, or was it even earlier?
Um, so it didn't actually start until I was like around 12 years old. Before that, I was very much, I stayed in line with what my parents expected. You know, I didn't really, I just did what I was told to do. And then at 12 years old, it was like I started to see my peers around me and they were starting to date boys. And I was like boy crazy, like since as long as I can remember, honestly. Like I wanted attention from boys. I mean, I think that's pretty normal, but I also didn't have very healthy attention from my father. So I think there's something to be said about like, you know,
Compensating.
having a very toxic relationship with your father can also create kind of like that, like I need to go get my attention by the male, you
Yes.
know, by masculine energy. And so I always wanted to be around boys. And so I started to be like, you know what? I want to be like my peers. I want to date a boy. I want to be normal. And so I got my first boyfriend. And as a witness, you're not allowed to date until you're ready to get married. And so, I
Oh,
mean, I was years, obviously, from ever needing to get married. And so, of course, I kept it a secret. I hid it. And I didn't let my parents know until a fellow witness told on me. She went and tattled, you know,
oh,
like,
those
yeah.
tattletales.
And to boot, she was one of my best friends, right? She tattletailed on me. So, I mean, talk about the anger and the betrayal and all the feelings that I had when I was, you know, just a young girl of like this girl just going and ratting me out. And
Yeah, to be betrayed by another female, under that system, it does, it's crazy making. It's sort of like when I watch females voting against their own
Mm.
body autonomy. It drives me nuts. Like why? It's like a betrayal of our sex. And I do identify as a she they. So I'm totally female identified, but tomboy gender. I don't subscribe to gender roles. It's a social construct anyway. Not my thing. Never has been.
Mhm.
But so that betrayal by your best friend, although
Mhm.
she was trying to save you, I'm sure,
That's
save
right.
you
She
from
didn't think she
yourself.
was doing anything wrong. She was doing what she was told as well, right? So I had to have like some forgiveness for her. Later on in life, we did actually talk about it. She apologized, when we
Okay,
turned
all right.
adults. And I was like, I realized, oh, well, you actually were just doing what you were told, right? She was someone that stayed in within the rules of the system, and I just didn't. I didn't tattle on anybody. I didn't. I was just like they're doing them, like and I just didn't want anything to do with it. But there was a component of there too. It was like I also kind of just wanted to be the person that had the freedom. I also
Yeah.
want freedom, right, to be able to do what I wanted,
Stay on
and
the
so
DL.
yeah, exactly. And I just didn't have that. I didn't get to have that expression. So I kept trying that a few times. And then I finally found a boy that was in the religion. And that is the one that I ended up marrying. But my parents did not want us to be together. And so it just became that's in my book, and Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful. It's really my story of like how that evolved because my parents, it was like Romeo and Juliet story, right? We were forbidden to see each other, forbidden because we had sex before marriage, big no as the Jehovah's Witness. And they wanted to keep us apart, and the more they wanted to keep us apart, well, the more that we came together, right? Like it's just that's just the way it's going to work. So it's an interesting part of my story, but wow, did I learn so much from that experience.
Yes. I mean, one of the things I talk to trauma survivors about, and of course, we would not wish any trauma on anyone. And even, if we had a time machine, would we go back? I don't know, because I don't want to be somebody else. Like, I trust my experiences that brought me here. But I don't know. How do you feel about it? Are you in that place? Sounds like that you're grateful for your experiences and what you've learned from it and how you can help other people, or is
Yes,
that too
yes.
much bright siding?
No, it's interesting. Like, I think I've gone through, I like to say my journey's been kind of similar to the way my life has been, up and down. Like, my healing journey has been much the same.
Does it
Um,
look like an EKG?
yes, extreme highs and extreme lows of this journey of healing and grieving and anger and all of the things. I think for a long time, like, I couldn't see the lessons in my journey. There was sometimes like going back into like that victim consciousness of like, oh, woe is me, like why did this happen to me, how dare they, like, but at the same time I think we have to hold space. Yeah, I a victim, yes, I was, right, but I also played a part. I also can see how I played a part in my own victimhood, right, how I also didn't uphold boundaries. I stayed when I could have left, right, like I made choices that I also have to hold my own accountability for. I can't just blame the perpetrator. So it's just, there's, those things about, learning. Okay, well, what did I learn? Well, you know what my ex actually taught me? How to learn how to love myself finally, right? I had never had that experience in that relationship. And then when I left, I finally got to receive that, which
Oh,
is, oh, finally finding that love within myself that I had never discovered while I was in the marriage.
let's take a minute. I love to just pause and take a breath and breathe into that because I'm 65 and I am just now getting
Mhm.
that spark of self-love. And it's just such a sweet life to have that. And when you haven't ever really had that, like I've
Yeah.
compensated, with my comedy, like, oh, hoping, people celebrate me, or, if they're laughing with me, they're loving me, or, it's always coming from the outside. But just taking that, I'm so happy for you to get the
Thank
gift
you.
of self-love. And from here, everything else feels so much more manageable, doesn't it? Once you have that.
It really does because I think a part of me realized too, it was like a lot of the things I was doing was thinking I had to do these things to achieve, to prove a point,
Yeah.
and it was all because I was trying to get my source of approval or acceptance or love outside of me. And then I think once things kind of shifted and I saw, I don't need any of that. I am the source. I'm the source of it all, right? And I think that's the biggest piece of healing is realizing that actually everything is about you and how you perceive you, and all your triggers and everything else that's outside of it. It's like it's all coming back to yourself and like learning how to come back to your body and be like, okay, what's the story here? What do I need to release? Like, why do I feel this way? And it's always something
Yeah.
coming up from the past to
Yeah.
be looked at in a different perspective. That's it.
Having that dialogue with
Mhm.
yourself, with your body. Let's talk about some of your healing modalities. You're a healer. You're a therapist, and I was reading about RTT, which I hadn't. I thought, oh, I've done all the therapy. Okay, I don't want. I did the hat trick. I've done EMDR. I've done brain spotting, psychedelic trauma therapy, which I'm a huge proponent of. But I
Same.
have not. I have. Yeah, are you? Have you done psychedelic trauma therapy?
I have, yes, I have sat with psychedelics. It was a big part of my healing journey as well. Yes, I am very much an advocate for that. If anybody is like thinking about doing that, go and do it. Like your intuition, like the nudge that you're getting, like go and explore it. It was something that really helped me to finally settle into like my body. Like I had didn't realize I had lived so dissociated for so long because that was the only way I could be safe in my environment since I was a young girl. I am very disconnected. And so I think that's a huge piece of like, sometimes you can just kind of get the default mode network they call out of the way. And and you can kind of just actually sit there and do the work, and psychedelics really help you, as well as RTT was what I do. So rapid transformational therapy. It's like think you don't have to take the drug. We're doing the same work that you can do with the psychedelics, but you don't have to take the drug. And that because we're working with the subconscious. And when you're working with psychedelics, you're working with your subconscious. So you're seeing everything in real time, the trauma, the somatic imprints of your experiences, and you're getting the ego out of the way.
And is it with psychedelics? What I found was I also felt resourced enough to look at these things and have a big, greater
Mhm.
perspective so that I could look at some of the most scary things in my life. Now, not to say they weren't still scary, but I had walled them off for a reason. But
Mhm.
with psychedelics, I felt resourced enough that I could look at it, I could see it, and then get to a place where I could accept it. And it was things I did not want to see. I didn't want to see my mother in that way. And in my experience, I do believe she had some sort of postpartum psychosis, and my
Mhm.
memories were very pre-verbal and terrifying, and I just kept hearing this voice say she's not in her right mind. So I have to forgive her. That's not her
Yeah.
fault if she's having sleep deprived psychosis or postpartum psychosis or something like that. And I feel bad for her because I know she had to probably live with that. But
Mhm.
when you do RTT, is is there something that helps us resource so that we have the ability to look at some of these really hard memories? Like for mine, I felt intermittently suffocated, and it was terrifying, and I had some kind of near-death experiences that were
Mm.
scary, like I went into like a little black dot. I was like,
Yeah.
the nothingness was terrifying to me.
Yeah.
But I felt like, okay, and my therapist was holding my hand, so I knew I had kind of a container. But with
Yeah.
RTT, how does it work? Could you explain it, or is that a lot? Is
Yeah,
it
no, I
too?
can actually, having done both, right? I think with psychedelics, the thing is it can be very re-traumatizing. It can be it can create psychosis in some because sometimes it can just really break the psyche a little bit too much if we're not held in a safe container. And sometimes even when you're held in a safe container, sometimes it's just too much for your nervous system and for your mind. So I have seen that in my work. I've seen, it can be both, right? So it's just really being able to know that the piece is trusting your intuition and also learning that you can also be the source of your safety while you're in that. In RTT, it's really important because I think it's more of like you can go and find these memories but you're not, we can also make it so you're not re-traumatizing. We can actually take you out of the memory, and you can actually like be looking at it from like a bird's eye view, in because it's hypnotherapy, right? So we can find the memory, but we don't actually have to kind of relive it all the
We don't have
time.
to, yeah, relive it, embody
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what
So
I
that
did
can be really
experience that with.
helpful for like sexual trauma and stuff like that for people that are kind of struggling with that. If it's too much, but in reality, it's really important to be able to feel what the body couldn't feel and process at that time of the trauma. So we can do that in RTT, and you do that in psychedelics. So the beauty of psychedelics is, well, you don't really have a choice. you're,
They're taking you
you're
on the ride. Yeah.
you're going whether you like it or not, okay? But with RTT, it's more of like, I'm going to hold your hand through this process. It's more like a safe, guided process where it can be at the pace of the nervous system. It can be at the pace that the client really needs, right? So we can go at a slower pace. Psychedelics, it's more like you're going, fast pace. You can't bypass it. You're just going straight there. So it depends on what kind of experience you really want. I think for me, psychedelics were great to get some stuff out of the way. I needed to understand why I felt the way I did, and it helped me by letting me see the experiences that I needed to see. And they were difficult, like just like you said. But it helped me understand myself, right? And sometimes we need that little bit of a push. And it's the same thing with what I do, is that just we really process things somatically, but also kind of rewire those new neural pathways so that we can kind of get rid of old beliefs and we can start to imprint, yeah, different ones.
Psychedelics aren't a match for everyone. If you've ever had
Right.
psychosis, it's not a match for you, or
Mhm.
certain maybe personality, maybe disorders or imbalances may not be a match. So this is a
Yeah.
great alternative. And do they both, then they both can have neurogenesis afterwards? Because that's the gift of the psychedelics,
Mhm.
is all that, like you said, rewiring and the
Yeah.
neurogenesis, new neuronal pathways, new.
Yes. Yes, they both have that ability. That's the beauty of it. When you work with the subconscious, you are creating a new pathway. You're also able to see things in different perspective. So you can go back into a scene that maybe you have thought about for years that was so traumatic, and you can see it from a different perspective because you're in this state. You're in this alpha or theta brainwave state. So you have a different type of consciousness in this state, and you can kind of perceive things differently. You also can maybe grieve or understand why it made you feel the way it did. And then after we kind of experience this is when we're able to kind of do the repair. We repair, and then we create the new neural pathway of, oh, I never have to look at this like this ever again. And I don't have to keep repeating it, because once the brain has closed the loop, it's resolved. Does that make sense? I hope I hope that
Yes.
makes sense to you. Yeah,
It,
it's because yeah.
yeah, I want to reflect back what I heard, because I heard that it's almost like in three stages, where it's like we're going to remember things maybe that we've walled off. Then we're going to, what, repair? No, wait, there was a third thing. Nancy, what was that? Tell me the.
We're gonna somatically let the body feel, and we're gonna understand what the beliefs are that were created from that experience.
Okay. And then we're going to
Mhm.
do the repair, and then we're going to do
Yeah.
the
Creating this,
neurogenesis.
yeah, we're going to create the new neural pathways. So we're going to rewire the brain. And so the cool thing about what I do too is it's like I do RTT, but I also do somatic work while we're in there. So we're also connecting back to the body, because the mind and the body are connected. I feel like, yes, you can work with the subconscious, but they're all connected. You have to connect them together. So you have
Yeah.
to also notice what's coming up sensation wise in the body, because our body's always speaking to us, and it's actually always giving us messages. We just don't pay attention. We just don't
Yes.
pay attention. And so when we kind of work with the body and the brain at the same time, we're moving through things like way quicker than traditional talk therapy, right? We're doing things like, and we're just moving and transforming things way quicker so we can get out of the stories we've been telling ourselves for years and years and years, and we can start to truly live from a different perspective of life and create a different reality.
I love it.
Hmm.
I love this. I want to try it sometime. Now, do you take clients remotely or do you have in person or how, are you still seeing clients?
Yeah, I do both. Honestly, most of my business is on Zoom. Zoom is actually great because people get to be in their homes, in their own beds, cozy while they do this process. It makes people actually
Oh,
feel
you're
more
cozy. You can be in bed under your
in
blanket,
bed, under a
maybe a
blanket.
nice weighted blanket.
Yes, like all I have to do is see your face, so people just have a laptop and they're cozy and they're just hearing me through the headphones and I'm hearing them as they're, as I'm guiding them through this process. But it's being able to, feel safe enough. And that's the biggest factor is we have to feel safe enough to explore our trauma. If we don't, we will not move past it. And really, it's important for us to be able to feel safe enough to explore it. And when we do, I first create safety for people as we kind of nurture a relationship. We create safety in the body. They listen to a recording that implements that into their brain. I'm safe to feel. I'm safe to process these things. I'm safe to discover. Like I'm safe to be curious. Like all of these components, and that really sets them up for a great first session.
Wow, I may be a new client.
I would love it. I would love to help you out, Nancy. I would love to. It's a fun exploration of self. Um,
I'd
there's
love
never not revelations and epiphanies. I mean, there it's fascinating, honestly, work. I feel like sometimes I'm like a detective and I get to go inside your subconscious, but really it's you doing the work. I'm just guiding and leading it. And I do this all very intuitively too. Like I can sense and feel that energy. I can sense kind of what's processing in real time. I can hear what's happening for you. So it's like I'm also being that guide, but really you are the one that's doing the work here. And you're processing, things that you would have to do for 10, 15 years in traditional talk therapy.
Oh, listen,
In one
I've been
session.
in therapy so many decades, and I mean, I trust, and I know you have religious trauma. We were talking about this earlier, and I'm very spiritual. So I do believe in a higher power, whatever that is. I do believe we are one with, after psychedelics. I just feel like we're
Yes.
all part of the one. And I know that I feel like I'm just grateful that for whatever reason the algorithm put us together. I'm so glad to know you. I feel like there's something here for me personally as well as people who listen in. And so I'm excited. I want to say something like I personally I had given up on relationships. I'm 65. Listen, uh, I kind of wanted to go into my safety. I want to cry a little bit when I tell you this because it's like it's a sadness, right? Like never quite got there to that, you know, relationship that is like, just beautiful. Like I thought I was there, but wah, wah. Turns out it was, us. I was told by the Boulder County Safe House I was with a sociopath for 11 years. And it's like, dang, and I was so thought I had found the one. You know what I mean? Like she kissed my lazy eye. And I'm versatile. I've been with men and with women. And my ex-husband and I are still friends. I just talked to him the other day. He has some other issues. He's just, whatever. We did not quite emotionally attune. Let's just leave it at that. But now I have a crush on a guy, and I just found out he has a crush on me. And I was with him last year at a gig, and I mean, I really was like, ooh, I would like to make out with this guy, but my pelvic floor is completely shut down. Like no one's getting in here. And so
Interesting.
I personally want to work on, and I know I'm postmenopausal, so that has something to do with it, but also I just know intuitively that's from a sexual trauma in my teenage years, a sexual assault. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to work with you about that. Like, I am motivated. I guess I'm just, is in my recovery journey, I'm just getting to a place, well, maybe I could have another relationship, or maybe I could have a healthy relationship that's not trying to heal whatever trauma with whoever, with our parents. I know I hate to be a textbook case, but the woman I was with, I was healing my mama trauma. The man I was with was healing my daddy stuff, like, it's so cliche. But
Yes.
anyway, is that something like you work with people who have sexual trauma? I'm sure you do. I know already, but I'm
Yeah,
asking.
no, I actually work with a lot of sexual abuse victims. Because I mean, I am also a sexual abuse victim. I was just a young child when that happened to me. And I was also sexually assaulted many, many times throughout my life because I didn't understand safe relationships with men. So I understand this completely. I had to heal so much of that trauma. And so when I work with women with this, it's like it's really important to realize it's also so connected to the body. So you can logically think, I want to have a healthy relationship and I want to be with a man. But
And I want to open my body up, but
if
it
the
won't.
body is saying no, you have to be able to connect the body to the mind. And so that's obviously the work I do, right? Through the somatic hypnosis sessions, is it's being able to finally connect the body to the mind to know that the body now is finally safe to be able to explore this, right? We got to let the body's guard down because the body, guess what? It's going to do what it's going to do, girl. Like you have zero control over it. It's a part of your human intelligence that
Yeah.
has been protecting you for a very, very long time.
And, and it
So
did. And I will say, even during the sexual assault I experienced, I think my my tight pelvic floor protected me in a
mhm.
way because I was able to like
Yes.
he wasn't able to penetrate me fully, so that was part of it. So I think that has been a lifelong like let's you
Yes.
know as much as I want to relax and receive love, I think I've always just it's been hard to override that.
Yeah, of
um
course.
anyway, I know it's nothing new, but I'm inspired to think that even at this age, in my last, whatever, I'm calling my last third, if I'm lucky enough to live another 30 years, then I mean, it is our birthright to have
Yes,
a wonderful life,
it is.
to
Yes.
share love.
It's
And
your birthright to learn how to help your body finally feel safe in order to receive, right? To not have a guard up, to like let the guard finally down, like let the body armor finally come off so that you can receive that for yourself. And it all starts, and I always tell people this is the thing I had to learn, is the foundation is true safety inside. And some of
yeah,
us have never experienced what that actually feels like. I had never experienced that until 3 years ago. I didn't even know
wow,
what that meant. When my therapist would tell me, well, you got to find safety. How do you feel safe? Where's your safety? And I was like, what are you even saying? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Well, I'm safe. I don't know. I'm in this house. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've got a job. Like, I have money. Like, I guess I'm safe. I didn't realize that the concept had to be actually felt. It had
yeah,
to land in my body. Until it landed in my body, my guard was up. I was defensive. I couldn't let people in. I couldn't let my partner in. I couldn't there was so much unraveling that had to happen. And so now I think that, now you're kind of inspiring me. Like this is another piece of my work is like helping women access this and finding that. And it's by accessing it through the body, but also letting the mind know like these things that happened in the past, they're not happening right now in real time. So when we process them, the subconscious thinks that everything is happening right now. So all your traumatic experiences, your subconscious is like, well, we got to defend against this, and this, and this, and this. Like, so it's constantly, thinking
yeah.
about what does it have to defend
Yeah,
against?
I always look at my ego as a binary, like threat, no threat, threat, no threat. And it tends to want to just rest on threat, 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 threat,
Right.
threat.
Of
And
course.
it's just this, and I'm like, how can I get it to rest on no threat? And that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
That's
That
what we
sense of
want to do.
safety.
Yeah, and that's what we want to do. And so it's why, my work is foundational on teaching women, one, how does your nervous system operate? What is the nervous system state that you are always finding yourself in? For me, it was fight or flight. I was constantly busy, rushing, anxiety, feeling kind of on edge, easily irritated, all of those components, realizing that that was just me being in my survival part of my brain. It was not me accessing my true safety, connection, joy, and belonging, my ventral vagal. So,
Oh,
which
I
is
love that.
where we want to be, right? But we have to teach our system where we want to be. And until we rewire our nervous system and our mind, we're going to keep going to default. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know
It sounds super simple, but it's actually really complicated. It takes consistency, discipline on your part, even while we're doing the work together, but also helps you showing up on your everyday experiences of life, right? In a different way that you never did before. But now you have access to it once you have safety.
I love that. Can
Mhm.
you say those three things again? The finding your sense of joy,
Oh,
belonging.
joy, belonging, connection. I think yes. I mean, I don't know exactly what I said. I'm sorry, but yeah,
Okay, that's right.
that's
No, it just felt like a core thing that I just wanted to affirm, like
yeah, it is.
finding that sense of joy
Hmm.
and that sense of okayness. I will talk, I mean, and I hear this so many times from trauma survivors or, lots of people. Just we wake up and there's this millisecond of okayness of like, I'm all right, and then instantly I can go to either a toxic shame experience, I can find that thing, that and I think it is about safety. Like if I find the thing to be ashamed of, then I'm not going to get blindsided by somebody. And I
Hmm.
did have an occupational therapist who told me like maybe, your divergent eye is like scanning for threats, like you don't feel safe enough to, completely focus on one person and just like, I
Mm.
don't know. I tried to rewire my eye once, and I thought it was exhausting. And you have to do it 20 minutes a day, and I paid a lot of money. I went to a lot of vision therapy, and then I don't know. At some point, I got busy and then stopped. It's kind of like yoga. Every time I restart yoga, I'm like doing it. I'm doing it this year. I swear.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if when we think about rewiring, when you said it's something you have to practice, that made sense to me with just trying, because I think it is possible. I did read a book called Fixing My Gaze, and neuroplasticity is a thing. And
Yeah.
this woman achieved binocular vision after a lifetime of not having it. So I was inspired, and this is inspiring me. But what does it take to practice it so that I can, not go back to that default setting of life scary,
Right.
somebody's
Yeah.
going to come in and, hurt me at some point.
Well, I think the first piece is awareness.
Okay.
Oh, I know my pattern. Oh, I understand I go into fear. Or, oh, I understand I go into shame. So the first piece is awareness. And guess what? That's the easiest part. That is the easiest part, right? The next part is actually being like catching yourself in real time when
Yeah.
you go into the fear. So I'll give you an example. I think that will be really helpful for people that are listening in. I grew up in a cult, which was a doomsday cult. So everything that was about that cult was fear based, right? So it was if you don't obey, you're gonna die, like all of these components. So of course, I had fear embedded in my nervous system. I had fear embedded in my consciousness. And so when I left, that fear didn't just go away because I left the religion. I like brought it along with me into my whole entire experience of this reality. And I was fearful of everything. I was fearful of my like shadow. My gosh, I was fearful of everything because there was just that fear that was still living inside of me. And so I think the piece of this was I had to realize every day, am I living in fear or am I living from love, belonging, safety? I had to start to see the difference, the polarity of both, right? Okay, what am I operating in right now? And how do I get out of this place? Because sometimes it feels like you can't. Sometimes you feel trapped there. Sometimes you feel like I don't know how. And that is a valid thing to feel because your nervous system hasn't experienced anything besides fear. So how
Wow.
does it know how to do anything else? It's only experienced one thing. And I had to realize that I needed to have more experiences besides just the fearful ones, just the ones where I was getting harmed or something was going wrong or something was, hurting me. I had to have different experiences. And so I had to learn from that so that my nervous system can finally be like, oh, we can finally relax here. We are not going to die. Like, there's no God that's coming out of the sky to destroy us. Like, all of these components, I had to learn that everything was okay and that I was safe. And the more that my nervous system did, everything started to relax, right? My whole world changed. My body changed. The way I shifted in the world changed. The way that I operated when news came out and, like the recent war, like I didn't have to operate from a place of fear. I just was like, this is what is happening in reality. I have zero control over it. Why am I going to go into fear? It doesn't serve me.
Yeah.
Simple, right? Like if something happens tomorrow, I don't have certainty that I'll be here tomorrow. But if I hold on that to that today, how am I supposed to live today? Like in fear?
Right. To be in the present moment.
Yeah.
And I'm always asking what is mine to do because it is important if there is something we can do to take action, like if we do need to
Yeah.
go into the streets and do the No Kings protest or whatever that is, that feels like I do have something to do or to, when it's time to vote, to go around or canvas or I don't know, that's getting political. But that, when you mentioned the war, all those things came to my mind, like what is
Right.
mine to do,
Yeah.
to speak truth to power kind of thing, which is what I feel like I'm called to do a lot of times. And in a way that I can. And it's so tricky because I do a lot of corporate events. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm not going to do divisive content. But if I can say, hey, if, I do preach a little bit about self love and like,
Yeah.
if we love ourselves, then we can recognize when there is somebody trying to get us to hate someone. Because I just feel like, hey, all hate is propaganda. And it's like, okay, hate you know, just brings more hate, right? I don't know. So that's my little cheat of speaking truth to power. Like, who wants us divided? That's the oldest trick in the war book, divide and conquer. Just ask yourself anytime you're seeing something in your reels that's dividing, like making you want to feel othering, the othering. So I guess that's it. When I'm thinking about my safety, but how do I then, okay, I've done what I was supposed to do. I verbalized the thing. Now, how do I put a little container on that? And now it's my birthright to enjoy this bird in the tree or
Mhm.
this moment of breathing with Brooke Deanne, who's experienced self love, for the first time, like being connected with my
Yeah.
fellow
Your
person.
experiences. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I mean, I think that I really resonate with like Eckhart Tolle and like the power of now and all we ever have is the present moment. I really realize that that is true. All we ever have is really this present moment. What are we going to do with it? What are we
Yes.
going to stay trapped in? Like, what are we, what are we going to try to be right and wrong about, right? Or are we just going to live, and from a different place? And when we are, I think if the world would be a different place if we all lived in our nervous systems that were in joy, safety, connection, and belonging, we would be
100%.
we would be a different society. Like it would be completely changed. And honestly, I feel like that's the evolution of humans right now. That's the evolution of consciousness right now. We are learning what doesn't work and what does work, right? By the feedback we're receiving. And we're also learning more of like, okay, what does this look like? And maybe some of us are still in that survival place, and that's where we need to kind of get to, okay, how do we get to safety in this moment?
Yeah.
Despite what's going on outside of us. And I think that's the key is being able to find that for yourself because when you find that, guess what? You don't accept relationships that are awful anymore. You
You just don't vibe with it. You just, that does
don't,
that
don't
frequency.
connect. You don't connect the same because you know what safety is and you know what is, true.
You can
And
trust your
like
gut.
you're in tune with your intuition. You hear what's to come next. And that's someone that lives a very present life and is able to kind of tune in to that sixth sense and be quiet enough to hear it in the first place.
I love that. The Power of Now changed my life. I remember when I was going through that sociopath abuse, how when three people recommend a book or something, and I
Yeah.
read the cliff notes, basically it was called Practicing the Power of Now. And now I make that when I do teach improv team building things at some of these conferences and I give out necklaces that say, "Hey, this is where the joy is in life, the present moment. We're not borrowing we're not borrowing problems from the past or for, looking to the future too far. We're in this present moment together." And it says, "I'm in the present moment." And then on the back it says, "For now." And it's just a little joke because you're like, you don't have to do it all the time. Just do it for
So
now.
true.
And it's always
So
now.
true.
So that's like, I love that that's so affirming to me when I talk with someone like you and I hear like, oh my gosh, isn't that interesting that Eckhart Tolle was part of our healing journey? It
Mhm.
says so much. That's how, and I don't know about you, but I really was struggling. And I had a toddler, I had a 2-year-old, and I suddenly was homeless. Like, anyway, but I was struggling. Like, I honestly was just so overwhelmed and not knowing if I can't kill myself because I can't even take a nap when I want to. I've got a toddler, like
Mhm.
for real, I have to make a joke about it because but it was
Right.
really horrible. And that book just helped me so much. And maybe it was like a, a second at a time, or and then he had these little 2-minute meditations, like really short meditations in the practicing of the power of now.
Yep.
I love that. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that.
for sure.
Oh,
No, it's I think that I think he's been a lot of people's healing journeys, right? I
of
think
course. I
because
mean, he's yeah.
yeah, he's huge. And as a trauma survivor, you don't even know what the present moment is. I had a therapist too that said, just be in the present moment. And I'm like, what? What does that even mean? I'm like, are you kidding me right now? There's no way. This brain is chaotic, and just learning like, but what I did train myself to do is to learn how to meditate. And meditation wholeheartedly changed my life. It changed how I showed up. It changed my ability to be more emotionally regulated. It just helps me silence this busy mind sometimes. And I realize how, I'm like the brain that all of the tabs are open, like on the computer. That's that is me. Okay. And I'm just realizing, now that meditation has helped me to stop that, take a break. It helps me problem solve, right? Like ideas, creative ideas will pop up when you meditate and you just kind of come back to that moment and you're just like, I can't live without it. I won't go a day without it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and there are days when I can tell a total difference on a day I meditate and a day I don't. Like it really, and I haven't really, my run today is a little bit of a meditation. It's kind of a moving meditation, but not the same as just sitting still. And, but I'm like, oh, I've got to meditate today. Now,
Mhm.
I want to, before we have closure, because I want to respect your time. I mean, wow, hey, we're doing pretty good. How are you feeling so far?
Great. Yeah, this has been a fun conversation. I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot of bases, to be honest. I mean, people have
Yeah.
been learning so much. It's fun.
Yeah, great. And I love that I can tell you use humor. And that's, one of the things about traumedy is
Yes.
how much I do believe. And again, I will talk about a higher power, whatever that is. It's a frequency thing. I feel like humor is a gift from higher power to help us heal. And
Yes.
it definitely, have you used humor? I mean, I can just tell already because the way you
Oh,
laugh,
yeah.
you
Dark
kind of
humor.
mock yourself like, what is that? What are you talking about? The
Yeah.
present
No, no,
moment.
no. Dark humor for sure. I mean, honestly, I really feel like that actually helped me to get through some of the most awful, terrible things in my life because I was like, oh, well, somehow I'm still here and kicking. I don't know. Like, it's just being able to use humor to lighten things up. Right? It doesn't have to be so dark. I mean, yes, things happened, and yes, it was awful at times.
Yeah.
But using that dark humor, I'm like, I kind of make fun of, like, oh, well, yeah, it's great. My complex PTSD gave me, the ability to have psychic abilities. You know what I mean? Like, like,
This is what I want to talk about. Okay, the post-traumatic gifts. I'm so glad
yeah,
you mentioned the psychic piece. Yes, because you were saying earlier how you just kind of intuitively know what's going on
mhm,
with somebody.
yeah,
And that, oh my goodness, this is my jam right now. Like if I could just hang out with a bunch of psychics, like I actually went down to Crestone, Colorado, where we have kind of an epicenter, supposedly. But we don't need it. We don't need one epicenter. We're everywhere. And this kind of goes back to the goddess rising and the divine, I don't know, the
mhm,
feminine intuition, I call it. I know men also have psychic gifts, but
mhm.
tell me about your psychic gifts. And yes, thank you. I will forever be grateful for the CPTSD post-traumatic gift of intuition and psychic abilities. And oh
Mhm.
my goodness, isn't it fun? The spirit
Yeah, I
sign.
mean, it's very fun. I mean, I think when it first happened for me, I was like, what is going on? Because again, I was told that was wrong. Being raised the way I was, psychics,
Oh,
it was in the Bible, it was evil, it was satanic, it was wrong. And so when I started to have visions and I started to see things happen before they actually happened, I mean, I was like, what's going on here? I mean, it actually gave me a lot of fear, to be honest, because it
what?
came on very, very quickly. It
Oh,
came on very abruptly because my ex-husband had died tragically. And
oh,
that kind of ignited this awakening again for me to even like have these psychic abilities was because of that grief and that pain. It kind of just, I don't know, it just opened me up way too quickly. Um,
oh. So
and
you
I
weren't
talk
quite
about that.
ready to manage.
I was not ready to manage it at all. I was not prepared whatsoever. But thankfully, it's interesting how the universe works. I had teachers kind of just come into my world and they taught me. They made me actually realize I wasn't going crazy, and that everything was okay, and that it was actually quite normal. And this is okay that you have these gifts. And, many people have these gifts. Actually, we all have them. We just sometimes we're more closed off than others, or we've been told they're wrong, like I did. And so it's more of like, oh, okay, now I understand them. And so now I've been able to kind of harness my gift, and now I use it in the work that I do with people.
That's fantastic. And I'm curious if it might also help you with your sense of safety because it's like, hey, I can trust that if I need to know about something, if it pertains to me, that my intuition will let me know. Pay
Yeah,
attention.
it does, honestly. Yeah, I really do. And I do that. It does happen all the time, actually. Like I kind of am able to sense that stuff and know that stuff. And sometimes I'm realizing trauma also plays a factor in that. Because when you have trauma too, sometimes you kind of get those fearful messages. Oh, maybe this is happening, right? It's just fear. And
Oh,
that's not really your intuition speaking. That's just
that's
fear.
it. How to tease that out, how to discern.
Yeah, you exactly. You have to learn the discernment.
Yeah.
And that was a lot in itself to kind of learn. I'm actually just now getting into the space where I've started to learn more of that discernment and being able to like know the difference. And that's been really helpful for me, for sure, but also for my clients.
Yeah. We're going to benefit from it.
hmm hmm
Me being one of your new clients. So
I love
get
it. I would love that would be awesome. That'd be
get
fun.
ready for my email, my incoming email. So as we kind of bookend this episode, we opened with this, this awareness that we were raised, imprinted, programmed in a patriarchy, and now you have this podcast, Goddess Rising. I want to talk more, as we close, like that sense of empowerment. When I hear that Goddess Rising, I think about that. What you're saying is we are starting to attune with a different way of being that isn't so egoic or patriarchal or
Yeah.
so tell me, as we get ready for closure, tell me or our listeners like what's going on with Goddess Rising and what do you see for the future?
Yeah. I feel like feminine energy is meant to lead more than masculine. I feel like that's what's going to kind of show up as I feel like it's kind of already showing up where women are kind of leading more, speaking up more. We're finally like reclaiming our voice. We're finally kind of reclaiming our power as feminine, and being able to kind of really show men how we want to be treated rather than being suppressed, or thinking that we're less than. No, we're equal. We are the same. And I think for years that has not been, a lot of people have not looked at it that way because of religious programming, because of the patriarchy, right? Like, so I think things are shifting and changing. I think the more women that use their voice and speak up and lead, right?
Yeah.
Lead with truth, lead with their own sovereignty, lead from heart. I think those things are going to continue to shift because I think feminine power is like when it's like harnessed with and embodied, it's unstoppable.
Oh, I love that so much. As I'm on my hormone replacement therapy postmenopausal, I am taking estrogen and testosterone. So
There you
I am mansplaining stuff to myself. So
go.
that's but
I love
seriously,
it.
now I'm working on a new shtick where I'm talking like my divine feminine is Nancy Virginia, and my divine masculine is Uncle Nance. So
I
Uncle Nance,
love it.
Uncle Nance is always like, "Hey, change your oil every 3,000 miles and make sure your wiper fluid's full," and let me, explaining Bernoulli's principle to people.
It's
And
so
Nancy Virginia's like, oh, you need an airplane? You need Bernoulli? You need an airplane to get lift? We can astral project. So
Yes, I love it. That's so cool. Yeah, because it's a fun, I mean, we all hold this type of energy in each of us.
that's
Um,
right. There
I,
is the divine feminine and divine masculine, even in someone as femme presenting as you are.
mhm.
You have a divine masculine that I always, Shakti Gawain said, she wrote the book Living in the Light and Creative Visualization, but she would say divine feminine is the intuitive, the creative, And then the divine masculine is kind of the verb that puts it into action. Like, here's the
Yes.
idea,
Hmm.
here's the plans for the house, you go build the house. you
Yes,
know?
which I think is so beautiful. And I think so. I had to realize, and the reason why even Goddess Rising became a thing is because I realized how I had been living in my masculine for so long.
Yeah.
As a guarded, wounded woman that had been abused for so long, of course I had to be in my masculine. The masculine protects, right?
Yeah.
The masculine defends. And I realized how much work I had to do in order to kind of let not that part of myself lead anymore so that I could have a beautiful balance of both. And wow, what a journey that has been to balance out the both of those pieces of my psyche. But I think that's really the healing work, right? Being able to hold both. And as women, we need to learn how to finally feel safe enough to receive.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, speaking of receiving, are you open to receiving messages from people, and how can they reach out to
I
you and
am.
find you?
Yes, I am definitely. So my website is brookedeanne.com, so super simple. And then I'm Brooke Deanne on all of social media. So they can reach out to me. They also can book a clarity call. And I have a beautiful community that's called Returning Women Community for anybody that's, kind of needing some support. I have a circle in there once a month, but I have courses in there to help you on your healing journey, as well as hypnosis library. So you can kind of just access my work if you can't work one-on-one with me. So there's lots of ways to get into my world.
Thank you so much. Look in the show notes, and there'll be links to everything for Brooke Deanne. And I will be getting some support from you
I
soon.
love it. I
You're,
love it.
I'm so sincere about this. I will be seeing
Excited.
you, and I don't know. I just am feeling like a sense of delight coming, like a delight incoming. The light is
Yay.
returning. So thank
Oh
you
my
so
gosh,
much
I
for.
love that. And then we can do a podcast about your experience. That would be super fun
Right,
to.
we'll do some follow-up to
Yes,
it.
yes.
100%. This is what oh, I love it. And please feel free to stay in contact with me. Anything going on for you. I like repeat guests as well, just on your journey, to hear more about you. So
Thank you.
thank you, Brooke Deanne. Thank you. You're wonderful, and thanks for sharing so much today.
Thank you for having me here.
We'll see you. Bye. Oh my goodness, I love this.